So welcome everyone. I think we'll get started for this special council meeting. Thank you for everyone for coming along. My name's Karen Redmond. I'm the Mayor of the town of Gala. This is a special council meeting specifically to deal with some adjourned items from our previous council meetings. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge this land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands for the Gala people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Gala people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the Gala people today. So roll call, we have 3 apologies tonight. We have Councillor Fraser, Councillor Little and Councillor Tooley. Are there any motions to grant leave of absence, councillors? Be none. There is no non-attendance. Public open forum. I don't see anyone in the public open forum, so we'll keep moving. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest tonight? Councillor Hughes.
Just in item 5.6, it was item, I think, 11.1 last meeting, but I'm a deputy member of the CAP, but I'll be dealing with the matter by staying in the room.
Okay, thank you. If you can raise that at that time as well. Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, ditto. I did fill out the paperwork in the previous meeting. Are we to fill it out again?
Yep. Thank you. So if you can raise that at that time, thank you. And Councillor Goldstein.
And I'll be leaving the room.
You'll be leaving the room?
I'll be leaving the room.
If you can raise that as well and get my attention at that time. Thank you. Any other conflict of declarations of interest? Thank you, councillors. We'll keep moving. We'll get started. So I'm moving straight into the agenda and I'm on page 4. Adjourned items, Schomburg Drive and Mullamar Way project update. Councillor Hughes.
I'm sort of willing to move the motion. It's not good news on the increase in the speed limit, unfortunately, but the works that have been undertaken, especially the tree planting, has actually completely changed the whole character of the area. It's really good, and hearing that landscaping came way under budget is really good news as well. I think that's great. So yeah, happy in a way to with the officer's recommendation, but yeah, it's a bit disappointing that we can't at least increase it to 60 kilometres an hour without major changes. So yeah, I'll move the motion.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldstone.
Yeah, happy to second it. I've got the same reservations as Councillor Hughes, but it appears we've got our hands tied with this one. We've got no option to be able to increase the speed limit, so happy to second the recommendation.
Councillor Vallelonga.
I agree with Councillor Hughes and Kieran Goldstone. Why can't we question it?
I guess we can question it, Mr. Delena.
Because it is a big problem.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't think anyone disagrees. But I think we can continue to question it, but there are just limitations around this matter. Yes.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor.
Is it on?
The light's on, so I hope so.
Beautiful.
We've had two independent reports that have been undertaken, one on the 80, one on the 60. Unfortunately, there's just not any room to even consider increasing the speed limit over a section of the roadway to conform with the standards. And to do so, council hasn't got the ability to increase the speed limit off its own back. It needs to apply the state government. The state government would ask for a due diligence, the information that we presented as part of this agenda, and there's no way any responsible road authority would be able to support an increase based on the evidence. Now, the only way that could occur would be spending millions and millions and millions of dollars reconstructing the roadway and potentially having to acquire some land. So I know that when the road was first being discussed around the chamber, there was a number of discussions about the speed limit. I know that one former councillor was quite vocal about trying to get a higher speed limit at the time, and there were complications. The complications with that were discussed in regards to the extent of cut and fill that would be required, that would be prohibitive with respect to future land development. There'd be additional costs for developing the road, and that it wasn't and that the state government weren't supporting that. So what we ultimately ended up supporting was a road that was always going to be a 50-kilometre-hour road. In the current context of the landscape, without the urban development, obviously there's a period of time where it will appear to, that you could approach it as a higher speed limit, but it doesn't conform with any design standard in any section that would allow that to occur.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak?
I'm a little bit confused, Sam, about the design of it. It's a road, and what do you mean? What, it's 1 foot too skinny? I question that.
Just briefly.
Yeah, so Councillor Vallelonga, I'd point in the direction of the attachments. So there's been two separate reviews undertaken, and there's a number of criteria it has to meet, but primarily vertical and horizontal curves. So in terms of the gradients and the extent of the radii and the site distances, the proximity to the road of various infrastructure. So there's a number of elements to this. It's not just the width of the road. As soon as you start increasing speeds, there's a whole lot of variables that need to be considered, and the design does not cater for that.
Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this, and although the speed limit is staying at 50, that's what the road was designed for, and we knew that. So I think I even argued that we shouldn't even bother going and getting the report on this, because that's what we were told right from the start. In fact, we were told that by the engineer when we did the tour. He went through that in detail. So we spent the money, we've got the reports. The reports have said exactly what we were told originally, so I'm happy with all that. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
I was just wondering if the mover and seconder would be happy with dropping point 4 out. As we've heard, we know the risk. We've got the reports, and we're not going to be pursuing anything on a technical level, let's be honest, until something comes back. But we are pulling the trigger very quickly to write it off. I wouldn't mind just turning around and going, let's just take a breath for a moment. So dropping 4 out, I don't see any risk of leaving ourselves open for anything. And who knows, maybe there is a workaround in the future in a 12-month period, but there is no risk. So I guess that's my question to the mover and seconder. I'd like to speak to the motion if I could.
I'll ask the mover and seconder first.
Yep.
No, the mover's saying no. well, you've got to have both. So if the mover says no, that's a moot point. So you may speak.
Yeah, look, I would be happy to support this because it is a noting report. I'm not happy with sending the community the advice at the moment that we're done with it, to be honest. You know, we are getting contacted, well, some of us are getting contacted quite regularly by ratepayers that don't understand how this came about. I think there's a bunch of questions that I want to run to ground, or, you know, maybe test the waters with writing to the state government, blah, blah, blah. By leaving that 4 in, I've seen how rescind works. I didn't want to flirt with that this time, to be honest, and I don't see any risk on what dropping that 4 out would do, given as Seton pointed out, the extreme works that would need to happen to actually make anything happen in this space. So, yeah, I was happy to support 1 through to 10 without 4, but unfortunately I can't be voting on the wrong side of this given the feedback I've got from ratepayers.
Any other discussion? You've already spoken. Councillor Samble, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. And I heard what Councillor Koch said about the point that we knew. Well, we were told that on the drive around when the road was finished, but I've been around this project the same way as everybody else has. And right from the word go, I do not believe that the elected members here would have said, well, listen, why are you only building a roadway that's going to carry a lot of traffic and it's 50 kilometres an hour, which is just a joke. And as Councillor Shanks said, there's nowhere you don't go, and somebody says, why can't you do something about it? And I think if we can get Brendan and the media, the Bunyip or whatever, to make it very clear, this is not this council's decision of 50 kilometres an hour. This is the state government. It's not ours.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Hughes, are you happy for me to put the motion? So the debate's finished. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It is lost. Thank you. Right. Sorry? Oh, sorry. Division, Councillor Shanks called a division. All those in favour, please stand and I'll call your names out. If we cannot talk to each other while we're in the middle of the meeting, thank you. All those in favour are Councillor Koch, Councillor Goldstone and Councillor Hughes. All those against are Councillor Davies, Councillor Vallelonga, Councillor Shanks and Deputy Mayor Samble. The motion is lost. Thank you. Sorry? Yep, you want to move an alternative motion? What is your alternative motion?
Sure, so I'll just move it without point 4.
Okay. Okay, so you're moving 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10?
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
And I'll speak to it?
Yep.
Yep. Well, basically, yeah, what Councillor Shanks said, it's the same motion. It doesn't mean we're doing anything right now, but I just think, sort of like with the situation with the King Street Bridge, for example, I think it's useful sometimes to be able to say we're not, as the council, endorsing this as our decision. It's something that's come through to us from the state government. So that's why I'm happy with this version of the motion.
Okay, and you're happy to second that, Councillor Vallelong? Do you wish to speak at all? No. Any other discussion? Councillor Goldstone.
What I was trying to suggest previously was that we could have left item 4 in, but it included the words "at this time" after what was written there. It still means that we're not going to pursue it immediately, but there could be down the track. So it could have been easily resolved that way. But if this was what the members decide to support, I'm happy with that as well.
Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, look, I think this is the right move forward. We've got a very detailed public report here on what has happened to date. It's noting the bridge naming. There's a lot of good in here, and by dropping out point 4, as Councillor Davies has now just done, We're not putting the nail in that coffin yet, although it might be a pipe dream and might be a bit optimistic. I think, leaving it open in the current climate is a better optics move for this council. And I do note Councillor Samble pointed out the fact that this council didn't have that buy-in. These decisions were something that this new elected council did inherit. So, and it's a state government road, as Councillor Samble pointed out. So I'm glad we've gone this way, and I'm happy to support it.
No, it's our road, but it was built by the state government. Yeah, but I think that's what Councillor Shanks meant. Yeah. Any other discussion? There be none. Councillor Koch?
Look, I'm sort of neither here nor there. I'm not really concerned too much about this, and I'll probably vote for it. But I just want to say that it's more than optics. We've actually got reports, we've got independent reports that says that the road is designed for that speed, and anything above that is you're putting people's lives at risk, basically. And to actually change it is going to cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. Let's just accept the facts. And when people ask me about it, I just tell them the facts, and they go, "Oh, okay." And that's it. I don't lead them on. I don't give them false hope. I say, this is the facts. And people are happy when you give them the facts. You don't have to sugarcoat things and give them false hope, because it won't happen. You're not going to spend millions and millions of dollars re-engineering that road. It is not going to happen. So neither here nor there. I doubt it's not going to go anywhere. It's just the theatre for tonight. So thanks very much.
Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Davies, you happy for me to put that motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried unanimously. Thank you. So next we have 5.2 on page 15, monthly finance report. Happy to accept a mover. Councillor Hughes moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ballalonga, any discussion? Seconder, do you wish to speak? No. Any discussion on this? If there's no discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the Pdi Act Business Readiness. This is just completing some legislative requirements and also allowing council to delegate to the CEO pretty much everything. Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Shanks? Are you happy to second? Councillor Ballalonga? Is that why you put up your hand? Are you happy to second? Okay. Councillor Shanks?
This one is just around the new planning development infrastructure. It's the process. I am assuming that a lot of councils in the state would be doing something similar, and it's just bringing us in line with keeping up with the new Infrastructure Act, readiness. So, I'm happy to support this.
Councillor Ballalonga, do you wish to speak? Any other discussion? If not, mover, I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, carried unanimously. Thank you. So I'm now on 5.4 on page 23 of the agenda. Again, a legislative requirement of council. I think I saw your hand first, Councillor Ballalonga, and seconded by Councillor Shanks. Councillor Ballalonga, do you wish to speak at all? No? Okay. Councillor Shanks, you happy? Any other discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Live streaming improvement option. You happy to move that way, Councillor Davies? Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, look, I think this is an easy one for me. This is something that helps. It helps both us in our role as elected members, just in being able to, for example, I was trying to look at the audit committee video last week or so, and had a bit of trouble with just microphone spiking and it being hard to hear and that sort of thing. So when we improve our infrastructure, we make it easier for everyone to keep track of all our meetings and what's going on and that sort of thing. And it also just, makes it more accessible for the public, and it makes it easier for us to, I think a few people have given up on Zooming into meetings at the moment because it's just a bit frustrating and a bit chaotic, even though it's a possibility. And if we can improve that, we can get higher levels of, general participation from council members at meetings. So, yeah, I think it's a good idea all around.
Do you wish to second it, Councillor Shanks? Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, this is all part of moving forward with the times. Last year we found ourselves in a position where we had to operate on a digital platform. What that did for community engagement is still benefiting us as a council right now. It's time to build on that. It's time to invest in only making that better. As Councillor Davies said, as elected members that aren't on any committee, on some committees, I use that tool quite regularly to sit there with my earphones in while I'm working to catch up on what has happened. And I'm not the only member of the community that's tapping into this asset. We have, as we speak, we have young mothers and fathers that can't sit in the gallery in a public meeting tuning in and listening to what's happening in their council. It's an asset that we need to build on because it is a bit flawed, but it is obviously flawed because it was a quick Band-Aid. There's a massive silver lining that we need to benefit from here in what we had to go through last year, and this is all part of it. So I'm in full support of this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what comes back. I've also done a little bit of research around how Playford Council have done it. I've also talked to a couple of Playford elected members as well and how they're finding it. So I'm getting nothing but positive feedback from our neighbours. So yeah, I look forward to bringing us up to speed.
Any other discussion, Councillor Hughes?
I'm happy to support this investigations, but I'm not sure if $30,000 or $40,000 is warranted. I think a lot of the times it's actually getting people to actually speak into the microphones and use the microphones properly, and the chair to pick that up. Because I've listened into meetings and workshops, and it's worked beautifully. It's only when there's slight bits that the microphone's not on or the chair hasn't picked up that the mic's on and there's someone speaking. $30,000 or $40,000 in our community can do a lot of things. So I'd be interested to see what the options come from it. But so I'll support this. But I think when it comes down to actual dollars, we're going to have a really tight budget discussions in the next couple of months, and things for 20,000 and things like that that we want to get across the line. This may be one that may find its way under the line at the end of the day, but at this stage I'm happy to support it.
Councillor Goldstone, then Councillor Kosh.
I might be the odd one out here, but I'll be voting against this. I think the current system is adequate for the use it gets. It's on a par with the majority of other councils. Certainly can't agree to spend $30,000 or $40,000 on something that a minority of ratepayers use. I'd rather that money be spent on a broader spectrum of ratepayers, certainly on more in-ground works and this sort of stuff. So yes, I'll definitely be voting against it.
Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, look, I'll be voting against it. I mean, all my experience with looking at the meetings, etc., the audio has been fine. And I think it is just a matter of elected members or whoever, members who is in the committee and actually speaking to the microphones. I think that's adequate. And I'm also of the view that that money could be spent on ground works. So I'll be unfortunately voting against this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Davies, you can close the debate.
Yeah, look, I think I gave as an example some audio issues, but that's not what, it's all about. It is an aspect of it, but I know there are definitely councillors here. I think Councillor Hughes has had some troubles in the past with trying to Zoom into a meeting, and, just this infrastructure around, making it easy for people. And I think this is essential work when you consider that, you know, the amount of people that we get in person to a council meeting is not usually that high. You might get, if there's a particular group that's all come along and 30 of them show up, and that's a huge group. But, you know, we just consistently get 200 views-ish on council meetings, and then we get a solid number of views on other meetings that usually get zero attendance. People are seeing our committee meetings and that sort of thing and are tuning in, and we're making it more accessible. We're adding, just with better video feeds and adjusting the size of the minutes on the screen and all this kind of thing. It's all just, ways to make it so that it's a lot easier to follow. It's something that's more accessible to people. And that is, communication is very important work. And this is sort of a much cheaper mode of communication than a lot of the ones out there in terms of, marketing, putting double spreads in newspapers and that kind of thing. Can't compare to directly people hearing what we have to say about issues. If people heard about, for example, when we're talking about the road, and the speed limit, the more people that are directly able to listen to us, the more people we can directly reach with these sort of things, rather than it having to rely on what happens on a Facebook page somewhere for that version of the information to spread. So I just think this is vital, and if you don't, we can haggle over the amount, but this isn't confirming the amount. This is just saying, this will go in the budget discussions. And then we can, maybe during the budget discussions, we'll be like, let's take out half of the cameras or whatever. Let's bring it down to 10,000, or that's a discussion we can have. But, this is a motion that just puts that, puts it into the budget discussions and gives us more detailed costings and reports back, which I think is what we need. So I'd ask everyone to support this motion. Thanks.
I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Councillor Shanks has called a division. All those in favour, please stand. Call your name out. All those in favour are Councillor Davies, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Shanks, Deputy Mayor Samble. All those against are Councillor Kosh, Councillor Goldstone and Councillor Vallelonga. The motion is carried. Thank you. So 5.6 on page 29, request for rescission of land management agreement. You're going to declare what kind of interest? Perceived interest, and you're going to handle it by leaving the room, and you've filled out your form, Kelvin. Lovely, thank you. We'll allow Councillor Goldstone to leave the room, and if you can document that. Thank you, Kate. Minute taker. Okay. Okay, so you want to declare an interest as well?
Yeah, I'll declare an interest. I'll stay in the room.
What's the interest?
They're perceived being a deputy member of CAP. If it comes to it where I fill in, I will address the issue at a CAP level.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes, I think you declared one earlier.
Yeah, exactly the same as Councillor Shanks. I've got a perceived interest as a deputy member. If I happen to be on the panel if this matter does come up to DAP, I'll address it at that time.
Okay, thank you. So now I'll ask everyone to look at page 29 of our agenda. We have an officer's recommendation. I'll see if I can get a motion on the table. Are you happy to move that way? Do you wish to speak at all? Do I have a seconder for the motion? Oh, Deputy Mayor, I think I saw your Deputy Mayor has seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Kosh. And then Councillor Vallelonga.
Look, I'm happy to support this. There's no evidence, it's not a arboricultural report that going with. There's no evidence to say that tree is a risk. And I can't tell from the pictures and the comments. And I would have preferred an arborist report, but on the face of it, I don't think it's a risk, the tree, and doesn't warrant to be removed. Thank you.
Councillor Valalonga, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just a couple of questions first.
Yeah, sure.
If that's all right. It's a land management agreement,
Yes.
and the trees aren't regulated. Because someone answered me, what if the trees aren't regulated and there's a land management agreement,
Mr. Viney?
why then they held to ransom?
Okay. I think it's been a long-standing LMA. If you could just briefly explain. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, it was part of a rezoning when the land was rezoned for residential purposes.
You can put really so we can hear you. That's
So when the land was rezoned for residential purposes, there was a series of investigations that were undertaken to support that intended use. One of those investigations was a tree report which looked at all the trees, and as a part of the rezoning, every effort was made to retain trees that would add to the amenity of the future urban state, and there were a series of both regulated, non-regulated and trees, and both regulated and non-regulated trees that were considered that would be at amenity, and they were protected by a land management agreement such that when the land was future developed, those trees would be retained and provide some amenity to essentially a new residential estate that does lack trees.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. I think that addresses the history around that. Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
I just had a question, just on the face value. I understand the LMA is there, but I just wonder around, has there been any thought process around negotiating with this landowner that if an LMA was lifted and the 2 trees removed, we request 4 trees to be planted in its place on the block? I do note the block isn't necessarily big or small, but it could surely take 4 trees.
So once an LMA is in place, that sort of is the agreement, isn't it?
Yes, it essentially an agreement that was being reached between the landowner and council. I suppose a new agreement could be reached, provided it was mutually agreed by council and the landowner of a different nature.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, you wish to speak? Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, look, I probably am not going to vote for this just because I just feel like this is maybe one of those situations where we've gone, our hands are tied the way it sits. And I'm speculating here, and I apologise for doing it, but I've experienced a couple of times now where this is the way that it is and there's no options forward. You know, I don't feel comfortable voting for this without talking to the applicant. I'm saddened to see that they weren't here tonight, but yeah, I think there's a solution here, and it's just a technical issue that I think we can overcome. So yeah, just as it sits, I'm not happy to close the door on this yet.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Hughes, you can close the debate. Thank you.
So these trees were originally protected under a LMA, which was negotiated with the landowner to allow him to get the maximum yield from this block. And the landowner's now come back, is my understanding, to renegotiate that to try and get in another area of land for more. So it's like another go. So I think, Joe, the council has been fairly fair, and I think, Joe, as Mr. Viney said, Joe, there is a complete lack of trees. Trees to keep the place cool and everything else are really important, and these are quite mature trees. So to plant a couple of extra trees, will take 15, 20 years to get established, and that's if they get established at all. So these trees are really healthy, doing really well. The existing LMA, I think, is fairly sound and was negotiated, I think, under good precedent and is quite a good system. So I think council's on quite sound ground to retain some decent tree canopy in this case, and I think it's really important to support this application, not to have those trees removed.
I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Division. All those in favour, please stand. I'll call your names out. Councillor Davies, Councillor Kosh, Councillor Hughes and Deputy Mayor Samble. All those against are Councillor Valalonga and Councillor Shanks. The motion is carried. Thank you. So I'm moving along to revocation of council orders. This is a noting that these matters have been resolved, and it's just really, thank you. You happy to move that way, Councillor Davies? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hughes. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, it is carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to recommendations from council committees. Now I am on page 38 of the agenda, and I'll start with a noting motion. There's a series of straightforward motions that were made under delegations, and that is that we note the adopted motions, and then I'll go on to the next matter, which is the Gala Show agreement. So are you happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes? Are you happy to second, Councillor Goldstone? Oh, welcome back, by the way. So we have a mover and a seconder for this noting motion. Any discussion on this noting motion? Councillor Valalonga? No? Okay. Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, just quickly. This CCS meeting also brought up the community engagement, and it also brought up the digital marketing strategy. I think that's prudent to show the staff are listening to some feedback around our digital presence, and it does tie back into the YouTube feed from a previous motion. So I'm happy to support this, and it also does feed into the work that now we're going to see for the YouTube feed as well. So just to really highlight that.
Any other discussion? If there be none, I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, moving on to the Gala Show sponsorship agreement update. Now, Deputy Mayor, I think you wanted to move the motion.
Move that motion, yes.
Move the motion. Are you moving that motion, or are you moving a different motion? That motion that's up on the board. Would you like to present that, please?
Sorry.
Would you like to present that as the mover? It is slightly different to the one that was in the agenda. So if you'd like to turn your mic on and present, just to explain.
We've only got those notes there.
That's right.
Can you scroll it down a bit, that Kate, please? The top. That's it. Yes, to do with the Gala Show sponsorship agreement update report, that we endorse in principle the business and marketing plans through to 2023 as sound documents that will provide for the continued sustainable operations of the Gala Agriculture, Horticulture and Floricultural Society, and thus form the basis of the Council's ongoing support of the Gala Agriculture, Horticulture and Floricultural Society moving it forward. Adopts that the Gala Show sponsorship agreement for the 21-22 period with an annual sponsorship of $59,500, $56,500 in kind support and $3,000 cash for the sponsorship of the Horse Grand Prix event, which has been a very successful event over the last few years. 4, approves the funds of $10,000 providing by the community events and activation stimulus program being used towards the delivery of the 2021 Gala Show, which is so very important for this town and the district. 5, seek council finance staff to engage with the Show Society to further understand their financial position and work with the Society to assist them in their financial reporting requirements, and the intent that such updated financial documentation is provided to the council to assist council in making decisions regarding future years of support. 6, delegates the Mayor, Deputy Mayor to arrange a meeting with the President and Secretary of the Gala Show Society in collaboration with Council Finance staff to pursue point 5 of this resolution. And I'm happy to take any comments other than what we have there, but I do believe it's such a very important issue, especially now that we're moving towards, because I mean, shows just don't happen. And I would ask of elected members to support this motion.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Shanks, I think you had your hand up. Are you happy to second?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. Anything to do with the Gala show, I think we should be getting around, to be honest. We don't want to be known as the council term that the Gala show folded on. So I know that they've had a rough trot, as a lot of the world has last year. But yeah, just giving as much support as we can in this space is only going to not only help this community, but the broader community that look forward to the show every year. So I'm happy to support this.
Any other discussion? There being none. Deputy Mayor, are you happy for me to put the motion?
Yes, certainly are. And as Councillor Shanks has just said, I think we all know it. It's such a very special event and has been going for many, many years and many success stories. So I ask the Council to support this motion, and when future meetings are held, to support those meetings.
I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so that deals with that one. Essex Park and Gula Showgrounds Master Plan, Community Consultation. So this is asking Council to adopt the recommendation from the committee. Or we can move on. Councillor Davies, are you happy to move that way? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga, do you wish to speak at all?
Let's see, just to say that I think there's been some good community consultation in this area, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak? Any discussion? If not, I might put that motion, Councillor Davies. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Thank you. So I'm over the page now on page 40. Community garden update is a recommendation. Councillor Goldstone, you happy to move that recommendation? Seconded by Councillor Hughes. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. Carried unanimously. Gala activation calendar. Happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes. You happy to second, Councillor Vallelonga? Thank you. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Council stimulus program. You happy to move that way, Councillor Shanks? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goldstone, I think I saw any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So moving on to the Gala Youth Advisory Committee recommendations, and I'm on page 41, Climate Emergency Working Group. You happy to move that way? Moved by Councillor Hughes. I think I saw you. Second, Councillor Davies. If there's no discussion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Motion on tourism. I think it's a really good motion from the YAC team. You happy to move that way? Councillor Hughes. I think I saw Councillor Vallelonga seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now over the page, We're moving on to Gala Heritage Collection Committee meeting held on the 11th of March. Are you happy to move that motion, Councillor Koch, beg your pardon? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hughes. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And now I'm moving over to the Special Infrastructure and Environmental Services Committee, meeting held on the 16th of March. And we have an officer's recommendation that's noted under delegated authority, so it's a noting motion. You happy to move that way, Councillor Vallelonga? You happy to second, Councillor Goldstone? Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And now I'm on page 44, and these are a series of minutes from our subsidiaries. The first one is that we note the minutes from the Northern Adelaide Waste Management Authority meeting held on the 25th of March. Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Koch? And seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Moving on to 513, which is the Gala River Floodplain Management Authority minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of February this year. Moved by Councillor Koch, seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now, I'll just work through my agenda. So now we move to adjourned confidential reports on page 45. And we have, so I'm looking at the public agenda at this stage, and I'm on page 45, and there is a recommendation to discuss this matter in confidence. How do you wish to proceed, Council? Are you happy to move that way? Well, we have finished off the rest. This is the very next matter, according to my agenda. Yes. We've got the IES meeting. No, that starts at 8:30. That's okay. It's all right. I mean, it's up to council. You can adjourn the meeting if you want, but it'd be nice to to deal with these confidential matters. How do you wish to proceed? We do have a recommendation on page 45. Are you happy to move that way? Thank you, Councillor Vallelonga. Do I have a seconder to go into confidence? Councillor Goldstone. Any discussion? I think it is important to consider this matter. It does explain it on part one of the officer's recommendation, information, the disclosure of which would divulge information provided on a confidential basis by or to a Minister of the Crown or another public authority or official not being an employee of the council or person engaged by the council. So I think it is important to detail that before we go into confidence. Any other discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. It is carried unanimously. So we are now in confidence. Thank you, Brendan. Wish you a very good night.